Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. We come to you again from the Grand Hotel in Stockholm, Sweden. Our final full day here in Sweden, and we have a great show for you. First, new details on the brutality of Bryan Kohberger and why he never wanted to go in front of a jury. We got a story about a creepy dude caught on camera doing creepy things. Matthew Perry's Docket cops a plea. An American Airlines flight attendant, well, he was doing creepy lavatory camera. Guess what that got him? How many years in prison? We have our series on this day in legal history. A quote of the day deals with violence against women and why it's wrong. And our dumb criminal of the day. Let's talk about it.
All right, lawyer.
Good day, everyone. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for joining us. You know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't, like if you do, leave me a comment below, and hit that little bell for notifications. And yes, you can check us out anytime on any of your favorite podcasting apps as well. Before we get to the docket, let me remind you to go to CrimeTalkSearch.com. Sign up for that background subscription service today. When you do, you'll be able to do as many background searches on anyone in the United States that your heart desires. You're going to get all types of information. You're going to find out email addresses, social media presence, phone numbers, all types of things where, like say, for example, that dentist was allegedly trying to kill his wife using different email addresses. I bet he didn't tell his wife or significant other about it. Certainly didn't tell his mistress, that's for sure. Anyway, you're going to find out if people have those mysterious uses in place for various things, I guess. And if they're not telling you about it, maybe you have to wonder why. Then, you're going to find out if somebody has criminal history. You're going to find out if they're married or they're divorced or they have bankruptcies, all the things that you want to know. Are they on, one of those sex offender registries? Yes, you may want to find out before you get to know them. So go to crimetalksearch.com. You're going to be happy that you did. All right, let's go ahead and open the record for Thursday, July 24th, 2025. And our first story has to deal with the new details regarding the brutality of Bryan Kohberger. Now, we've heard rumors and we've heard, anecdotal stories that may have been accurate, but now we are getting actual police reports that are being released, and it is going to be a treasure trove of information as it relates to the brutality of Bryan Kohberger and why he never wanted to go to a jury trial. He tried to bluff everybody, and as you may recall, all the motions hearings were, we didn't get this in discovery. Dismiss the death penalty. We can't do this, Judge. Dismiss the death penalty. They knew all along that if these facts and these photographs got in front of a jury, there's no doubt in my mind that he would have been not only found guilty, but he would have been sentenced to death. Now, Bryan Kohberger is probably sitting there after watching the sentencing hearing yesterday. And yes, people tried to mock him and criticize him because he deserved it. That's true. He is a coward. He is a failure when it came to committing crime. He was a failure at life. He was a failure at relationships with women. And clearly, he has some issues when it comes to women. And hopefully someone's going to help him work through that violent tendency towards women in the Department of Corrections there in Idaho. So like I said, he never wanted to go to a jury. He knew he would be found guilty. And he's probably sitting there thinking, once you all find out how bad I am, you are going to be shocked. And he's going to say, and I got life without parole. I bet you he's thinking he won. The Moscow Police Department has released hundreds of previously marked confidential documents from its investigation into the 4 University of Idaho students. Now, numerous police statements describe arriving at the home on King Road where they found the bodies of Kaylee Gonzalez, Madison Mogan, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. One officer said, "I was unable to comprehend exactly what I was looking at while trying to discern the nature of the injuries." One of the friends outside described going over to the house with another friend after the surviving roommates called them saying something was not right. That friend went up the stairs to Xana's room on the second floor, Chapin and Kernodle were found in Kernodle's bedroom. The friend told police the door was partially open, and when he went in, he thought the mess was from a drunken night out. The splatter that he saw across her bedroom was actually dried blood. That's when he told the roommates who survived, Bethany Funk and Dylan Mortensen, to get out of the house and call 911. Next, he grabbed a knife from a kitchen drawer and checked Kernodle's closet to make sure that there was no one else there. He checked their pulses, but both of their bodies had rigor mortis and were cold to the touch with no breath or pulse, according to the reports. Now, Kernodle, who was lying on her back, was covered in numerous wounds across her arms, hands, and face, according to the report, and her boyfriend, Chapin, was still lying in bed with a blanket pulled across him. Investigators noticed that there were 2 large cuts on the back of his legs, which were deep into the tissue. On the 3rd floor of the home, Gonzalez and Mogan were in the same bed in Mogan's room. Mogan had a wound on her face and wounds on her upper body, according to the reports. And in several police accounts, officers described the wounds to Gonzalez's face and upper body as so extreme that they made her unrecognizable. Gonzalez's family told reporters that she had been stabbed 34 times. Now, Chapin was killed by a stab wound to the neck that severed his jugular vein, as well as an artery. Now, Kernodle died from lacerations to her heart and lungs, and she had been stabbed more than 50 times. Most of her wounds were defensive, the medical examiner said, because she was trying to fight the killer. Now, Mogan's fatal injuries were lacerations to her liver and her left lung. And Mogan, Kernodle, and Chapin had only sharp force wounds, according to the reports that have been released. Now, Gonzalez had a sharp and blunt force injuries, according to the report, and had fatal injuries, including a lung laceration, a liver laceration, and severed subclavian vein and artery. Now, the police report said the medical examiner noted that the weapon was single-edged, very sharp, and said a lot of force was used by the suspect. That, ladies and gentlemen, is why Bryan Kohberger never wanted to go in front of a jury. Okay, we're not talking one time or, stabbed somebody, hit an artery, somebody bled out by accident almost, right? That's 2nd-degree murder. But we're talking stabbed 30 to 50 times, fighting against somebody who is defending herself, or in cold blood kill somebody who's just sleeping. Ladies and gentlemen, if that's not worthy of the death penalty, what is? Is it 1 murder, 2, 3, 4 murders? Let me know what you think, but the brutality is going to come back. And I just hope Kohberger's not in there laughing, thinking he basically got away with it with avoiding the death penalty. Let's talk quickly about the sentencing hearing. Now, you got to love the tact taken by the Gonzalez family. It was wonderful. Kohberger has the psychological makeup of a serial killer, which means that he is both incredibly insecure and has a massive ego. He'd be completely unmoved by emotional victim impact statements, and they absolutely have a place and felt right for those who made them at the time. But pointing out his failures with women, his failures in life, his failures when it came to committing the crime, that was brilliance. The judge did it as well. What made it all more effective was the fact that the most devastating statement was made by a female, clearly the object of his hate. Truly believed that there was some twisted little thing that he has against women, and that's why these murders occurred. Now, we may never know, but I don't think I'm wrong in that particular statement. Now, Hitler ran a very good courtroom, and to see this judge, who's been on the bench for many years, get choked up, that means it was powerful to everyone in the courtroom. And once again, we did not even see the pictures of the scene. But think about it, 30 times stabbing somebody, 50 times killing somebody in their sleep by getting them in their neck. That would have warranted the death penalty, and Kohberger knew it would. His attorneys knew that it would. Now, obviously, nobody can force Bryan Kohberger to make a statement at allocution if he chose to do so. He respectfully declined. But he's been not respectful in any sense of the word. He's exercised his constitutional rights, and he's entitled to do so. But he definitely didn't deserve any kudos at all from the judge, and I think the judge was right in saying he deserved nothing, and there was nothing good to say about them. But one more thing I want to talk about was we've only just scratched the surface of the investigation, but what I think we're going to see is that this was so thorough. Okay. All the people with some of these crazy theories out there, you're going to see that those were completely eliminated. And it also shows why the defense's theory of this alternate suspect went down in flames, crashed and burned. It wasn't pretty at all for the defense because the prosecution could show everything that they did to eliminate anybody else being involved other than Bryan Kohberger. The efforts that they went to chase down where the knife could have possibly been dumped, soil samples, right? Their attempts to connect Kohberger to the Papa Roger, which turned out not to be him at all. They knew who it was. Their inability to find the connection was no surprise, and we have seen plenty of indication that this case from the filing and by both of the defense hearings that he was the only suspect. We've talked about the Papa Rogers issues. Frankly, we didn't know, right? Now we absolutely know that Kohberger was not the owner of that account, and we may never know that person's particular identity. Anyway, these police reports today paint a picture of violence that was far beyond what most people would have expected to see and far beyond what most people are normally exposed to. Now, does it shock me? No, I've been doing this for decades, right? 33 decades. Been doing this type of stuff, handled several stabbing cases, and they are by far some of the worst. And it's kind of like strangulation, right? It is intentional and stabbing somebody, not once, not twice, 3, 4, 50 times, ladies and gentlemen, over and over and over again. How is that not with malice aforethought and after deliberation? No way possible. That is nothing but pure anger. Like I said, xanocronodal, 50 times stabbed. Can you say overkill? We're talking about a K-bar. A K-bar, ladies and gentlemen. Think about that. If I was at the CrimeTalk studios, I'd pull up my K-bar that I had since the summer of 1988. We also have a confirmation that Ethan suffered these deep cuts to his legs. Dateline had reported that, but this wasn't necessary to commit the crime. But it was apparently necessary for Kohberger to put his mark on him in some way for sure. And then obviously one major question that investigators and the state didn't answer was why they believe what the motive may have been. They had the benefit of talking to profilers, viewing Kohberger's search history, and getting inside his head through interviews with people who interacted with him. They absolutely have theories, even if they aren't necessarily going to be shared. I would have liked to have seen that as well. Hopefully these motions will be unsealed as time goes on, and we will get even more information on just how cruel and brutal Bryan Kohberger was. And I don't know, maybe he played everybody. Maybe it should have gone to trial. It's over now. It really doesn't matter. But as the judge said yesterday, Judge Hippler said, pure evil. Judges are always trying to find at least something good to say about a client. I've heard judges tell me that before. You can usually find something good to say about at least one client, about the client. Rarely had you ever had an opportunity where you couldn't say that, but this is the one. And guess what? Ann Taylor couldn't even come up with one good thing to say at sentencing yesterday. Not a one. Let that sink in for a second. Next on the docket, a creepy dude doing creepy things caught on video. This comes from Spain. So a mother has revealed that the chilling horror that she felt after discovering a masked intruder had broken into her home in the dead of the night, silently watching her naked body as she slept. That's right. Angela Castillo was fast asleep next to her boyfriend, Alec Verona, when the pervert burglar entered into their Costa del Sol property armed with a torch and fixated on her. The terrifying incident went unnoticed until Angie realized her purse was missing the next day, and they checked their home security camera footage. Now, the 32-minute video revealed a horrifying scene. The intruder creeping into their bedroom 8 times, shining his torch repeatedly over Angie's body, focusing on her intimate areas and face. And she said, I looked at the footage and my blood ran cold. He forgot about stealing and just obsessed with staring at me. I felt like a violation of my soul. Now, Angie, a mother of one, believes the situation could have been far worse, obviously. The day before, Alex was in Germany, and if I had been alone, this might have been worse. She said she went into the bathroom just a half an hour after he left, and if I had woken up and seen him, I might have screamed, and who knows what may have done. Maybe he had a knife or a gun. Anyway, the video captured the intruder's eerie fixation as he ignored valuables like Angie's gold ring, Philip Plain watch, and cash. There was also there, but took nothing. Angie's teenage son was asleep in the next room, unaware of the danger lurking nearby. Now, the traumatic experience have left Angie haunted. She says she's terrified. She checks the cameras before going to the bathroom at night. If Alex gets out of bed, I jump. She sees a psychologist now to cope with the nightmares. Now, her partner, Alex Verona, a Brazilian black belt jiu-jitsu champion, expressed his fury. If I had woken up, that video would tell a different story, he noted. I could have detained him without causing him harm until the police arrived and somebody violated their home, and it is infuriating. Now, Spanish police are examining the footage to identify the suspect, but no arrests have been made as of yet. Angie warns that Maribella's rising break-ins make it a bit dangerous now, urging residents to install alarms. She said that this has changed me, and she doesn't feel safe in her home anymore. Telling you, ladies and gentlemen, lock the doors, get that security camera, put a big old sign on your front window that says, you have firearms, okay? Represented lots of people over the years, and I asked them, how do you pick the house that you're going to burglarize? How do you pick somebody you are going to assault? It's people that they think are weak and vulnerable and an easy target. Make yourself not an easy target. Next, Matthew Perry's doc takes the plea. So it seems Hollywood has another plot twist with this one's a real doozy. A California doctor, Salvador Plasencia, just copped to slipping the late, great Matthew Perry a stash of ketamine before the Friends star's tragic death in 2023. Now, according to reports, Perry, at the age of 54, was found taking an external soak in his Pacific Palisades hot tub, done in by a wicked dose of ketamine. This led to Palencia's cuffs and copper moment last August, alongside another doctor who'd already thrown in the towel with a guilty plea in October. Talk about a sequel nobody wanted. Well, now Perry was supposedly getting ketamine infusions for his anxiety and depression. Legit, doctor-approved stuff. But apparently he was also playing pharmacist on the side, scoring the drug from less than legal sources. Oops. Anyway, the investigation pointed the finger at Perry's live-in assistant, Kenneth Iwamasa, who allegedly administered the fatal jab, courtesy of one Jasdeen Sangha. Iwamasa's singing like a canary with his guilty plea, while Sangha's rolling the dice with a not guilty stance, set for a trial in August. Now, word on the street is that Perry met Palencia, an urgent care doc with a side hustle, just weeks before his curtain call, and Iwamasa spilled that Perry shelled out a cool $55,000 for ketamine in his final month. That's a lot of drugs. Anyway, Palencia, ever the opportunist, reportedly bragged to a patient about Perry's deep dive into addiction and even texted another doc, a guy by the name of Mark Chavez, about milking the actor for cash. I wonder how much this moron will pay. Let's find out, he allegedly wrote to Chavez, who's already pled guilty to playing ketamine courier. Classy move, guys. Anyway, Palencia's out on bail, probably binge-watching Law & Order for tips until his December 3rd sentencing. And as part of his plea deal, he's kissing his medical license goodbye in the next 30 days. Bet he wishes he could hit the rewind button on that whole mess. Next, an American Airlines flight attendant gets 18 years for his lavatory cam. That's right. Buckle up, folks, because this is a story about a wild ride for Creeperville. An American Airlines flight attendant, Estes Carter Thompson, just earned himself 18 and a half years, all expense-paid trip to the big house for turning plane bathrooms into his personal spy studio. Talk about a turbulent descent into infamy. The Charlotte, North Carolina native was nabbed last January after a 14-year-old girl sniffed out his sneaky scheme, a phone rigged to record unsuspecting young girls in the lavatory. Gross factor, right? Off the charts. Prosecutors spilled the beans, revealing Thompson had been playing this vile game since at least 2023, directing young passengers to specific bathrooms where he'd set up his secret recording studio. Someone needs to tell this guy that in-flight entertainment doesn't mean that. Anyway, Thompson fessed up to one count of attempted sexual exploitation of a child and another for possession of some seriously heinous images involving a prepubescent minor. Federal prosecutors were gunning for a 20-year sentence with 5 years of supervised release to keep the guy on a short leash, but his lawyers was like, 15 is plenty. The judge wasn't having any of it, slamming his appalling antics and noting that his victim's innocence was left in the dust. You know that's not good when the judge is saying that. So in court, Thompson tried to mop up his mess with an apology, calling his actions selfish, perverse, and wrong. You think? Anyway, he's hoping his time behind bars comes with a lesson in basic human decency. No hidden cameras required. Next on the docket, this day in legal history. July 24th, 1866, President Andrew Johnson signs a proclamation readmitting Tennessee to the Union after the Civil War, following its ratification of the 14th Amendment. Now, this action is a significant legal milestone in the Reconstruction-era legislation, restoring federal representation to the state. On this date, July 24th, 1915, the United States Supreme Court upholds the executive authority of President Taft to withdraw public lands from oil leasing, affirming the president's implied power in regulatory actions over federal resources. We had all these same issues way back then. Everybody acts like it's different or new. It's all the same stuff. And the executive branch, whoever's in charge, gets to make the policy. You may not like it, but it doesn't mean you get to run off to court and say, we don't like the policy. Well, that's the policy of the person that was elected. Then on July 24th, 1959, President Dwight D. Eisenhower nominates Joseph Samuel Perry to the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Illinois, a notable federal judicial appointment reflecting the expansion of the federal judiciary. And on July 24th, 1974, the United States Supreme Court ruled in U.S. v. Nixon, ordering President Nixon to release the Watergate tapes, a pivotal decision in the criminal investigation that led to Nixon's resignation and convictions of his aides. Oh, and his resignation from the office of the presidency. Next, quote of the day, says Bryan Kohberger hates women. Violence against women is not just a crime against an individual. It is a profound violation of human dignity and equality, perpetrating a cycle of fear and oppression that undermines the very fabric of a just society. That's from various human rights perspectives. And it's wrong because it dehumanizes, inflicts physical and psychological harm, and reinforces systemic inequality, denying women their fundamental right to safety and autonomy. And as my mother used to always say, never, ever, ever hit a girl. Ever. Ladies and gentlemen, ever. Next, our dumb criminal of the day. Buckle up, folks, because Saturday night at the Planet Fitness in South Kamiami Trail turned into a wild, naked rodeo that even the rowdiest gym rats couldn't have predicted. Now, the Lee County Sheriff's deputies were called to the scene after reports of a bare-bottom bandit identified as Antunes Averad, sprinting through the gym like it was his personal nudist colony, scaling ceilings like a deranged Spider-Man, and trying to challenge his inner arsonist in the men's restroom. When deputies rolled up, they were greeted by a smoky haze in the locker room and ceiling tiles scattered like confetti after a particularly unhinged party. Security footage spilled the tea. Our naked ninja was caught streaking across the gym, popping into rooms, and getting this, lounging butt naked in a hydro massage bed like he was auditioning for a risque spa commercial. Talk about commitment to relaxation. Anyway, deputies suspecting this unclothed acrobat was lurking in the rafters due to the ceiling carnage weren't wrong to imagine him playing hide and seek up there. Looks like he's trying to get into the roof, one deputy radioed, probably wondering if they stumbled into a low-budget action flick. Cue the K-9 unit because nothing says we mean business like a four-legged officer sniffing out a streaker. The dog zeroed in on a tanning room where, lo and behold, Antunes Avarez was caught, slightly bronzed and very much exposed, hiding in a tanning bed like it was his personal fortress of solitude. With guns drawn, deputies stormed the tanning booth, yanking our sun-kissed suspect out of his glowing hideout. A little sun-kiss, the sheriff officers quipped, because apparently even law enforcement can't resist a good tan pun. And Tunes Averad was promptly wrapped in a towel because nobody needed that much of a show and hauled off into a police car. The rap sheet, a spicy mix of indecent exposure, arson, fraud, impersonation for trying to pull a fast one with a fake ID, property damage over $1,000, because why not? Smuggling contraband into prison. This wasn't his first rodeo either. Back in 2023, he was nabbed for prowling, trespassing, and attempted burglary. Our boy's resume is starting to look like a crime novel nobody asked for. Anyway, this dude is now cooling his jets in the county jail with a court date set for August 18th. So next time you hit the gym, maybe keep an eye out for those rogue nudists trying to redecorate the ceiling or at least stick to the treadmill. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have for you today. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it. We'll be back in the Crime Talk studios on Monday. Have a wonderful day. And remember, the Constitution matters.